A lot of wars can be avoided if we do things God's way. After the Israelites had settled in the promised land, their brothers in the tribes of Gad and Reuben and Manasseh were ready to go home. You see, previously, before taking over the promised land, these tribes had found land that was adequate for them and their cattle in Jazer, which was the eastern border surrounding the promised land. And Moses had agreed that they could have that land, but they first must go and fight with their brothers in the promised land and acquire all the land, and then they could go back home to rest. So for 7 years, they were away from their family and their cattle because they had left their things there to get established while they fought. And they fought obediently, and now was the time for them to go home. Once everyone was settled, there was hearsay that there was an altar built in this eastern border, which would have appeared to be some kind of rebellion to God. And Israel was ready to go to war with their brothers over this. However, the high priest and the princes went to confirm and to confront what they had heard about. And the eastern tribe did not get defensive. They literally just explained that the altar was for a witness to connect them with the promised land and their people and the worship of God. It was not for false sacrifice. Things cleared up and the war was squashed. You see, some of us would have been in war because that hearsay would be enough for us to have bitterness and to slander our brother and sister without ever confronting them to see if it's true. You see, some of us would be in war because we would have been insulted and defensive against the accusations being brought against us, being questioned after all we had done for them. Some of us would be in war because we didn't want to really listen to what our brother was saying because we had already solidified in our mind what our assumptions were true and they're telling a lie. Some of us would be in war because we would lie to try to make a story up, in opposed to just honestly having a sincere, truthful conversation about it. Where we see wars in relationships with community and people and family is most likely where we see a breach of God's commandments somewhere in the blueprints. For lack of wood, the fire goes out, but some of us keep throwing logs. Sometimes a word has to be examined, but instead we just go with what we hear and what we like hearing. And there's a side note here. Some of us will believe what we're told because that's already how we feel about a person in our heart and mind. Or some of us will believe what we're told because we think that person's trustworthy. And while they may not be notorious to be a liar, they also may not have all the facts. Too many people are regarding people as enemies instead of a brother that just needs a little warning. Be quick to hear and slow to speak, but often we reverse that. Speaking truth in love and not just to solidify the fact that you're right. Some people birth war and claim they want peace. But the reality is, if peace is found in God, then it's also found in doing things God's way.